Everyone has mental health, including teenagers. What does that mean for parents, for families, for professional caregivers like educators, therapists? What does it mean to hold the realities of having mental health struggles when you're a teenager specifically? Um, I was this teen. Uh, I was diagnosed with major depression when I was maybe 13. I was put on medication. I had therapy. I had an IEP. I was, poked, prodded, and researched. And meanwhile, I was miserable. I was really, really not doing well. My health was not good. From that rock bottom came an upward trajectory, thank God. But in this video, I wanted to do kind of a short webinar version of the event that I'm about to do uh, live with some folks who registered for this event. This is hosted by Off the Beaten Path Learning, um, which you can find at offthebeatenpath.com. The is DA, off DA, beatenpath.com. My name is Dominique Paloma Bible. I've been an educator since 2010, and I've had Off the Beaten Path Learning since 2020. For this agenda, I want to focus on what it is to be a teenager, the experience of being a teenager in and of itself, the experience of being mentally ill or going through mental health struggles in and of itself. And of course, everybody's experience is going to be vastly different, but there are some commonalities that we can look at. The combination, specifically, what happens when you take those two things and you twirl them together. It's a tornado of fun. It's not fun. And then the group activity will be for the live, and the conversation will be for the live. Yeah. So here's my argument: it's very simple. Is that when you take adolescence and the chaos of that, and then you add to it mental health struggles, it's going to be a lot. And it's a lot is like the best, most concise way I can put it. But it weighs heavy. It weighs heavy on my heart, knowing what a lot entails. It's very painful for everyone involved, the teenager, the caregivers, the families, everyone. It's incredibly painful. And I want to also preface with I believe, strengths and silver linings and uh, certain types of genius, and I do think of it as some kind of superpower to have psychiatric issues, because you see a different way. Any kind of neurodivergence, you see a different way. Any kind of mental health, mental health struggle where your brain is wired differently, you see a different way, you operate a different way. You're innovative, you're risk taking, you're creative, you're bold. But I don't want to glorify it either. It's a lot to deal with. And so what do you do? So the name of this event, this webinar, is Facing It, for a reason, because I think the best thing you can do is to just simply acknowledge it. Whether you are the young person who's going through this or the not so young person who's helping the young person to go through it, the best thing you can do is look it dead in the eye, because a lot of this, much like shame, only exists when you hide it, or only is as painful as it doesn't need to be when you hide it. If you can talk about it, if you can look at it, if you can write about it, if you can draw about it, dance about it, um, then you're releasing it. Cry about it. You're releasing it. Um, you're you're telling the depression, the mania, the obsession, the confusion. You're telling it directly. I'm not scared of you. I will find a way to navigate this struggle. And just simply recognizing that, just simply holding with your kid, like, this is a really hard experience. I remember the very first time that I was really confused about my depression. I must have been 12 or 13, and I was crying, but it wasn't like a hard cry, and I didn't really know what it was about, but it was painful. I can feel it in my heart right now. It feels like a heavy rock at the bottom of some kind of water. And I asked my mom, "What am I sad about?" And her answer was that sadness is when you have a reason to be sad. And depression is very often, there's no ostensible reason. There may be many reasons, but there's nothing really top of mind. It sometimes it's a chemical imbalance, and sometimes it's just all this murky stuff underneath, um, that's just being murky. And you need to look at it. You need to look at it. You need to face it. You need to recognize it. You need to acknowledge it, and integrate that information into your behaviors and beliefs. Not just, first and foremost, the families, and first and foremost the caregivers. Role model that recognition, that, you're embracing the recognition into your behaviors and beliefs. So this can look like anything from explaining to the kid, like, there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is doing something that you don't like, but there's nothing wrong with you, and we will take care of this. We will figure it out together. That's a way of integrating it into your beliefs, and then expressing that belief that, like, we see it and we're going to handle it. So, a mental illness, according to Mental Health First Aid, is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior, and disrupts the person's ability to work or carry out other daily activities and engage in satisfying personal relationships. Disrupts. Disrupts. I bolded this word because ain't no way it's not gonna. And I think so often we expect what we expected to be cool, it to be, you know, not that difficult. Throw all that out the window. Like, um, as we talked about in the expectations event, the thing you can expect the most are the bumps and the edges and the struggles. Um, so today is May 25th, 2025. Um, this is Khalif Browder. He was 22 when he died of suicide because he was incarcerated. And even though there was no, uh, first of all, what he was incarcerated for was stealing a book bag. He did not steal a book bag. He did not, but, like, really stealing a book bag I think he was 15, 16 when this mess began. Um, and he was snatched off the street. He was not given a trial for 3 years. Finally, they dismissed his case. He was released with a Metro card and absolutely no mental health treatment to speak of. Um, and he, successfully took his own life. And this is an extreme injustice, an extreme version of what happens when we do not acknowledge the mental health struggles of young people. They are already going through so much. And when you stack onto that mental health problems. In this case, his mental health problems may not have even been there so readily before his incarceration. He was sent to jail, Rikers, New York City Rikers, and he essentially learned his depression and his suicidality in jail, and it became not a not even a mental health. He was tortured. He was tortured. And so today I want to talk about teenage mental health, and I want to keep him in mind. He would be 32 today. And his particular case of teen mental health really comes at the intersections um, of. I mean, he wasn't an immigrant. Um, I don't I don't believe, but no, he was born in the Bronx. But um, all the same, these intersections, the more that they intersect, the more that these um, oppressed identities stack, it compounds an effect of you have less access to mental health treatment, you have less access to mental health education, less access to destigmatized mental health thought, um, ways of being, and uh, it can coalesce to really explode into something very bad. And so we need to acknowledge it. We need to face it. We need to deal with it. We need to respond. His mother is Vanita, and she said it wasn't just one person who killed Khalif, it was a whole system. And I think that's kind of, to some very much smaller extent, that's all kind of always true for every young person who takes their own life. I think it was always many things. Um, and this is a world premiere of a documentary called For Vanita, for Khalif. It's premiering on June 6th at, oh, I can't zoom in on this. That's unfortunate. June 6th, 2025 at Tribeca Film Festival. Tribeca Film Festival, if you want to buy the tickets, you look up Tribeca for Vanita for Khalif and go see this documentary. The family is still actively working toward seeing this injustice, something done about it. Um, and in an interview, Vanita actually said, like, she was asked, what is justice? And she said in the same interview that she said, that her lawyer quoted her saying this, she actually said justice would be if the Riker Rikers people, I guess, or the city of New York, or fucking someone said, yes, it was our fault, and just acknowledged. And that's the whole point of this whole webinar, is acknowledge it, face it, ask the hard questions, say the hard things, because life itself is hard. And if you pretend like it's not, it's trouble. So this is on mental health. This is the experience of the mental health struggle. It's not an exhaustive list by any means, but here are some examples of how it shows up. Isolation, less communication, less going out, less seeing people, less making eye contact, even less speaking, less listening. Um, on the reverse, there is oversharing, communicating too quickly, saying too much, interrupting, avoiding self care, whether that's hygiene, responsibilities, or the reverse, overdoing it. And so, as you can see, there's a theme here, and it's lack of balance. It's lack of balance in communication, in action, in thought, in belief. The baseline is just, it's like, um, and everybody's baseline is different. A baseline is just your typical behavioral well-being, your typical where you're a regular day, where are you at? And like for me, you know, a regular day might include slow and delayed thinking. It might include paralysis. It might include avoiding taking a shower. Um, it might include avoiding responsibilities. I might miss a meeting. I might be late to something. I might miss work altogether. Um, and acknowledging that this is a part of the reality is important, because when you try to fight it, there's shame, and you're pushing against the person and who they are and what they're dealing with, and it's almost like you're lying to their face, and it makes it all the more difficult. Impulsive thinking, or extreme thinking, black and white thinking as it's sometimes called, uh, are some experiences of mental health struggles. um, for the teenage experience, developmentally, what are you going through when you're about 13 to, I don't know, I'm going to call it a 10-year stretch, 13 to 23, 12 to 22, right around that age of like, you just left pre-adolescence, prepubescent age, and you're now entering a long journey of being, your brain is not quite done. Your brain is finishing its frontal development, and it's finishing putting some stuff together. And after that point, it's basically going to deteriorate. So it's really quite a wild. Um, so this list is not exhaustive, but the teenage experience, complex emotions are completely new, and boy, are they there. Changing emotions quickly, changing ways of expression. So like changing your what you wear, changing how you speak, changing who your friends are, all very normal. Navigating the politics of peers, right? Things get very political very quickly. You're never going to hear more gossip than when you're on a subway car with six teenagers. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with gossip. Gossip is the way that we tell stories. Gossip is it's an evolutionary important trait. It helps us to communicate about the tribe, but it's difficult. It's difficult when there's complex emotions, when we haven't really, our executive functioning is not completely done. And so like our ability to judge what's bullshit and what makes sense is not quite there yet, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just how it goes. It's par for the course. You need those stages. You need to learn the hard way. You need to learn yourself. And so as parents and caregivers and family members, we need to let that happen and make sure that we're creating a safe environment, an environment of like, I see you trying, I see you sometimes failing, and it's okay. um, we believe in you, right? We believe in your ability to create change in your own life. Um, Navigating self-esteem, tough. It's a tough one, and it's kind of forever, but it starts to be really present in teenagehood. Emphasized emotions, caring a whole lot, dulled inhibition, not caring enough, especially about like risks and safety and substance, academic pressure. hmm And this just makes everything else. Mhm. Because somehow for so many people, academic pressure becomes the number one thing. Like, I gotta do well in school, not I gotta take care of my well-being. It's like, that's secondary. That's ridiculous. When did that happen? Why? Like, increasing responsibilities, and awareness of your increasing responsibilities too, which like those things kind of culminate into this pressure in and of itself. And your executive functioning abilities are underdeveloped, right? So that's everything from time management, spatial management, like organizing your actual room or your computer or much of anything, your book bag, doesn't matter. Um, Organizing just your thoughts. Generally, organization is not, it's not done. It's not done yet. And also impulsivity is a big experience for teenagers. And so what I want to, I mean, I think I've already made this clear, but the stakes are very high. We need our young people. We need the future of this world to be okay. Um, and unfortunately, for young people, the second leading cause of death is suicide. And some of the most common mental illnesses, according to this website that I forget what this website even is, um, include anxiety, mood disorders, attention disorders like ADHD, mood disorders like, for example, bipolar disorder. I'm not sure if schizophrenia is considered a mood disorder actually, and behavior disorders. Like I don't really know what would be considered a behavior disorder. Is borderline considered a behavior disorder? I think it's a mood disorder. Anyway, so anxiety, mood, attention, and behavior are the enormous ways in which mental health can get a little screwy. And what can we do? This is where I'm going to finish this video is on what can we do. We can pay attention non-judgmentally. And I know this is so hard. I know it's so hard because you get caught up in your fears, you get caught up in your expectations, you get caught up in your own shame and guilt as a parent, as an educator, as a therapist, whatever. But you need to, as much as possible, ask the hard questions, respond in a way that is with their consent, and take a strengths based approach and do all of this non judgmentally. I guess the strengths based approach thing is inherently judgmental because you're making mostly positive judgments. But in terms of at least observation and communication of those observations, staying non judgmental is really important because then you're not adding to the pressures of their experience. I hope this was helpful. And I will say that if you need one on one guidance, Off the Beaten Path is an education company. And it's been, I think of it as educational healing. For so many, school is a point of distress when it could be a point of joy and pride. And so if you would like one on one support, do reach out. There's a Calendly link that you can find in the description of this video on the website at the top. On the bottom, there's Calendly links uh, to book a free call to discuss what one-on-one support could look like for you or your young person. Thank you so much.